Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, some of the arguments that come out of the left are just frankly patently insane. I don't get how such a large group of people can be so disconnected from reality. The level of frustration that I feel in response to some of the claims being made by the left at large is honestly kind of hard to quantify. I often find myself jumping out of my seat, sometimes yelling and often cursing, I'll be totally frank with you guys, because the stuff these people say is just unbelievable. And so in this clip, I want to tackle some of these claims. We're taking on two topics in particular, two of the most frustrating claims that we've heard coming from leftoids. The first is that media bias doesn't actually exist. They're just telling the truth and it happens to always go in one way. It's so stupid. Or sometimes they take the claim even further, as Mark Cuban recently said, the mainstream media is not biased to the left wing, but rather actually biased to the right wing.
What's the most watched news channel? Who are the most watched and viewed and listened to podcasts? Who are the most watched and listened to or
Is it
viewed?
Fox?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, it's not close, right? The number one shows are all Fox. The number one podcast,
So
lean right.
Even in spite of that, she's been able to...
Not in spite of that, meaning, well, in spite of that, meaning the mainstream media is not who you think it is. The mainstream media truly leans right.
Maybe. That's claim number one, and claim number two is that the right wing poses a threat of fascism and is coming after your rights, and the left, they're standing up for your rights, even free speech and individual freedoms. These are two unbelievable claims that are so detached from reality, 100% backwards, and I want to tackle those topics because there's a couple viral clips here that in my opinion just need to be addressed. Let's have a conversation about it, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so we're first starting off with the claim that the media has a right-wing bias or doesn't have a bias at all. It's absolutely absurd. And it's obvious that people who make this claim, well, they're just not being honest or they're just not paying attention. Every single day I watch the news. Every single day I watch CNN, I watch MSNBC, I watch Fox News, I watch independent media, sometimes a little bit of CBS and ABC. You guys get the point. And everywhere except for Fox News, obviously, the bias is just absurd. And recently, Caitlin Carlins went on Stephen Colbert's show and defended CNN saying, well, we're not biased. We have Scott Jennings. Yeah, but what does that tell you? You have one conservative on the network? Every time there's a panel discussion, you guys know exactly how it is, right? It's Scott Jennings versus 5 people, 6 people at the table. Oh, there's no bias there. No, of course not. And what do these leftoids do every single time Scott Jennings actually tells the truth? They attempt to shut him down, and that's exactly what they did here.
I got to tell you, this campaign is... So everything that's said about Donald Trump and his treatment of women and the gender gap in this campaign, this rapper, who I fully admit sold a lot of records, if you've read some of the things he has said about the promotion of domestic violence.
No. What he said,
against women.
He said if you're famous,
Bakari,
you can grab them by the...
Bakari, I listened to your entire filibuster. If you could just give me 13 seconds.
I give you 12 because he said grab them by the...
And so when you think about the things he has said in order to sell those records, and you also consider some of the questions that are swirling around Harris's own husband in this regard.
Oh my God. You don't even get 12 seconds. I'm not going to let you go into the far end of BS.
I'm just telling you,
Scott, you can't go. Listen, I can't represent you in the defamation case.
We're gonna stop here for a second. All right.
Oh, there's no left-wing bias in the media. Give me a freaking break. Scott Jennings hit the nail on the freaking head. He is absolutely right. You know, there's all this talk about toxic masculinity this and toxic masculinity that, and apparently Donald Trump is the source of all toxic masculinity and misogyny. But who's telling us that? Eminem and Doug Emhoff? I mean, give me a freaking break. And when he brings up this glaring hypocrisy, what's the reaction? They shut him down. Oh, you're not allowed to go there. Oh, you don't get 13 seconds. You don't even get 12 seconds. I'm gonna start interrupting you and yelling over you like an unhinged emotional Karen, or probably more accurately, like a DNC propagandist. It's completely insane. And Scott was 100% right. Oh, I won't be able to defend you in the defamation case, the CNN contributor clown sitting on the left of Scott then responds, and I'm sitting there scratching my head, what is this guy talking about? First of all, Scott Jennings never actually made a claim, he never made an outright declarative statement. He just said that there were reports, and of course those reports were widely ignored by the totally not biased mainstream media. Reports of him being an adulterer and also being accused of domestic abuse. There's no grounds for defamation there. He's merely citing the reports threats. He's not saying, oh, this happened. But of course, the defense goes, shut up, Scott, you're lying. You're going to get sued. Yeah, we're real serious journalists. We don't delve into hearsay. Yeah, it's funny how that standard only applies to Democrats, though, right? Right now, there's a story that I'd say is largely hearsay, coming from a totally disgraced journalist who writes for The Atlantic, the same guy behind the Suckers and Losers hoax, claiming that Donald Trump praises Hitler, and Donald Trump said some horrible remarks in reference to a fallen soldier's funeral payment. This story is complete nonsense. It's hearsay, and the media has absolutely no problem running with that one, now do they? In fact, it feels as though they have no real intention of actually verifying the story, delving into some of the other sources, maybe other people who were actually present during these meetings and during these moments. No, they're just running with the anonymous source and asking the question, why is this story not destroying Donald Trump's political career? Anderson Cooper says this would be the death knell to any candidacy.
It's remarkable, General Hertling, in any other time, if you had the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the former chief of staff of the President of the United States coming forward, both respected, highly decorated career military people who, as Secretary Cohen is saying, follow a code of generally not speaking out. If in any other time this occurred, people would, in the past, this would be a death knell to any candidacy. I don't know that it'll have any impact whatsoever. It seems like everything is baked in. There's nothing that the former president can say that will turn off his supporters.
Why is Donald Trump able to survive our attacks? Our disingenuous, bogus Democrat propaganda attacks, our deep state election interference attacks. Why are they not working? Well, I don't know about you guys, but the writing is on the wall. It's so clear. The bias is baked in. There's a standard for Republicans, which is any hearsay, any claim is automatically fact and disqualifying, and Donald Trump is literally Hitler. But when you point out the hypocrisy on the other side, it's defamation. And the entire panel yells and speaks over you and cuts you off and doesn't let you finish an idea because the mainstream media's main goal is defending Kamala Harris and destroying Donald Trump, obviously. So there's claim number one. Now claim number two, that the Democrats are the ones fighting for your rights. Eminem just introduced Kamala Harris at her most recent rally, and he said this.
I also think that people shouldn't be afraid to express their opinions. And I don't think anyone wants an America where people are worried about retribution or what people will do if you make your opinion known. I think Vice President Harris supports a future for this country where these freedoms and many others will be protected and upheld. And here to tell you much more about that, President Barack Obama.
Now, you see what I mean in the intro, where sometimes people make these statements, and my immediate physical reaction, I can't even control it, is to jump out of my chair and frankly just start yelling obscenities. What Eminem said there was so patently false and backwards, it's hard to stomach. I can't handle falsehoods of that magnitude. He claims that there's a threat to freedom of speech and basic freedoms from the Republicans, and that the only solution is to elect a actually unelected candidate that the powers that be are trying to force through the election to the presidency, and that side represents freedom, democracy, and freedom of speech. Kamala Harris represents freedom of speech.
If you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
He is irresponsible with his words in a way that could result in harm to other people. And so the privilege of using those words in that way should probably be taken from him. He has lost his privileges and it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power.
They don't even believe in the First Amendment. They also don't believe in the Second Amendment.
How mandatory is your gun buyback program?
It's mandatory.
Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment, listen, we're going to have to do it the right way. There's no question about that. But we don't have any, we have to get these guns off the street.
Red flag laws, universal background checks, and an assault weapons ban.
I mean, they're straight up wannabe fascists who spent the last, let's call it 12 months trying to imprison their political opponent and weaponizing the justice system. I mean, look at what's happening with Letitia James. She's about to get sanctioned in the appeals court. I mean, in a just world, she would be disbarred at this point. That's the side that represents freedom. The side that shut your businesses down, that mandated you engage in certain behaviors, let's call it. The side that worked with social media companies to suppress information and to ban people for their opinions. Yeah, that's just insane. That is just freaking insane. In fact, it's so insane, even leftists are openly saying the exact opposite.
The right thinks that the left is in a very different place with free speech than they have been before, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong. This is arrogant. You don't punish somebody. It would be like if we stopped Henry Ford from making the cars because we didn't like what
Even Bill Maher admits that the Democrats don't exactly have a great track record on the issue of free speech. But of course, it seems as though the only freedom these days that the Democrats care about, the only right that's worth fighting for, is the right to abortion. Totally crazy, totally backwards. And honestly, I think I've made the point. I think probably most of you already understand the hypocrisy here. So that's pretty much it. Just a couple clips that I had to highlight. I just had to get it out of my system. I mean, that's how this whole YouTube channel started, right? So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.